Okay, we're gonna talk a little bit about tactile cues and what I mean when I say this word, tactile cues, what do I put in it, and how, especially how do I train it. That's what we're gonna stay the longest with, and why. Well, this is a question I get a lot, and seems to be a lot of misunderstanding on what a tactile cue is and how it is different from a pressure-based cue. And with pressure-based cue here, I mean cues that we have built with our traditional training, our traditional negative reinforcement training, how most horse training still happens, you know. We apply pressure and we give a release when we get a response, and if we are not getting a response, we escalate this pressure until we do so. Okay, that's the most common way of teaching horses, and this means that the cue that we start with when we have a leg aid, for example, we start with the leg, and in the beginning it can look like a bigger version, then we can nuance it down to a smaller, more refined version of that pressure. So we can start with a bigger pressure when we're teaching the horse. Depends on the horse and the rider, of course, but that's basically how it works. Pressure motivates and the release trains. And here instead we are working with adding something instead of taking something away after a behavior we want to train. And I am adding, in most cases in this video, food. Positive reinforcement with food, mostly. That's mostly how I do it. But we will also see some scratches used as a reinforcer here. So that means also that the cue in the beginning, how I train it, there are actually positive reinforcement trainers that shape with contact. And start with shaping with contact. I do not. I wait with shaping with contact, and especially if the horse has previous experience from negative reinforcement, I want to build a whole behavior repertoire with positive reinforcement, and I want to have a really strong foundation behaviors that I can later build my tactile cue on, which you will see. And this means that in the beginning, a behavior can look very, very different from the end cue, how we start a behavior. That can look the same as with the traditional riding aids. But what I put in the behavior, in the behavior's history, can look very different, which we will see here. And that's also one of the points why I am doing this, especially with horses that don't have a good experience from their previous training. I want to put a totally different reinforcement history in what is later a cue that might look the same for this horse. But as you will see, it's rather differently built. Okay, long story long, I guess. Let's go to how I teach it. And I am in my shaping, I am very target heavy in my shaping. I love using environmental setups to create behaviors. And yeah, here we see, of course, goes for all horses that you will see here. They have a foundation behaviors so that we can actually use these behaviors to teach. So this horse, he knows, of course, he's standing on a mat. Just to explain the concept, okay, we're not gonna move, we're gonna stay here on the mat, and the rider holds a nose target, a fly swatter, which of course he knows how to touch this behavior, and we have already established some touches before we gotten into this stage where we actually have added tack and try to teach a tactile cue for a head turn. And you see, rider is doing a really, really good job of, we're doing old cue, new cue, so she's applying contact, and then she's gonna turn her target down as an explanation. Dit. And you see, she is doing that really nicely. So a little leg contact, rein contact, and target down. rein, target. And we want to phase out the target later on so that the rein is cueing the horse to do this. We can watch it again and notice how she feeds. She feeds very nicely here with a straight head, and to set him up for next rep.
Fint.
And you don't have to, you only have to get the direction with the target. You don't have to actually touch the target here. You only have to produce the behavior that we want. Yeah, that's very good. And here is another example of, well, we're using a target here, but here we're teaching head lowering with this horse. And you see the whole process, how, well, it's a really quick process because I just put the clip together here. So we're not gonna go super deep into it, but this behavior is first, I mean, he is working more independently with the nose target. It's just, I'm just clicking for head lowering here, and I try to click earlier and earlier, so he is not always have to actually touch the target, but that's how we started. And then I am adding tack into the mix. You will see first I'm just holding the rein to get them used to that. I'm going to hold the rein and follow you down. And the hand movements, if you're going to have a look at my hand movements, they are very relevant when we are working in hand, what I do with my hand. And you see here, I'm adding a known behavior, and that's a little lift in the hand to do this with the head and to ask him to stand still before I give the release cue and we go down. So quick check, have a look. I hope I said this right. Touch target, I'm just clicking and reinforcing this. Earlier and earlier, here I've added tack, but I'm just following him down. So I'm touching the rein and following him down. Here, I'm switching the position a bit. That makes sense to him. He knows that. Ask him to wait and then follow me down. Ask him to take head up and then follow me down. So, I don't know, maybe it was a little bit fast here. We can watch the later part of it. Touching rein. Switching position. Asking for wait and down. Asking for head up and down. Of course, I mean, this is already trained behavior, so I just wanted to show the process. So that's why it is that fast. I mean, usually when the foundation behaviors are really strong, it's not that this takes exactly long. I think the idea with waiting is solely because it is, like I said earlier, if we have built this previously with aversives, it is a strong point to make to wait with using cues that looks like your previous training, of course, especially with a horse like Frody, who had some not so good experience from riding and had a little bit. He had a traumatic experience behind him. So I waited a lot before I added tactiles in our training. And what this also builds, if I feel that the tactile doesn't really work, I have a long, wide, different types of behavior that I can fall back on that looks very different from the tactile cue itself. So that's also one of the strong points of why wait and why actually bother with reshaping the cues is to for the sake of the reinforcement history of the said behavior. But yeah, this is a personal preference of mine. I must say that also can do this really well in different ways too. But yeah, here we are. And here, a very lovely example of shaping with tactile. She's scratching. It's a different kind of tactile how we use it here.
Ja, fint.
But if you take care to watch this, and this is Astu, she's doing really lovely. It's from when I was back at theirs, from Disco Cavallo, I must say that. And we are working on getting this horse hind end towards us. And of course, the prerequisite is that the horse likes to be scratched. Otherwise, it's not a reinforcer. So that's, of course, very essential for how well this works. And you see here, she's doing a really lovely session. And a lot of horses do like to be scratched. So we're asking the horse if he can ask us, hey, why did you stop scratch? I want some more. And sort of build from that, so that we also get the horse that communicate
take that
towards us what he wants. Like, yeah, I would like some more. And then we.
And now he's in a good position to actually take a step. So let's see if he will do that.
And now he's in a favorable position for actually taking a step, which is what we want here. So then we apply more scratches. And when we work with scratches, we have to scratch for a little while. So that is actually reinforcing. But you see here, that's a very nice example of shaping hind end towards us. And what can we do with this? Well, this is how I build my haunches in cue. Later on, when I use it from the ground, I add my lifted hand. And this is, of course, representative of my outside leg when I do sit on the horse. So this is the start. And here we see a little beginning. We're teaching this horse the outside leg aid now. He, of course, we already gone through the process, so he knows the rider's upstretched hand like this. He knows what that means. He knows that means hind end towards rider on the ground in this case. And I'm just like a passive luggage in the beginning, sitting there, so he can feel how it feels to do this movement with weight on his back and stuff like that. And here in the video you see me first trying to add the leg aid the same time of the rider, and then a little bit before, and so on to do a little cue transfer. So we had a little hind end movement, and here you see me applying leg and getting a little step and a little step. It's a lovely way of working, and really a good way to introducing the tactiles, I think, if we're gonna use tactiles. And that's, not everyone wants to use tactiles, but I do, especially later on. For the precision it offers to add on to the nuances of the behavior, I think the tactiles can be very, very nuanced. And yeah, that's why I do also ride on my horses, so it makes sense to put some time into that. But yeah, they like putting time, especially. Also here we have a horse comes from negative reinforcement training. That's what he's been doing most of his life. So here I'm just adding the position that I would when I long rein him. I don't have reins on here, so I have built this behavior up with him following the long side, a skill I put a lot of time into with my horses, following the long side, because so much of my training, it's happening after the long side, and this gives my horses direction so that they can move forward, and I can add like other aids on this, but they still keep moving forward. So just to show that the whole context of being placed where in space we are, of course, makes a lot of sense, especially for a horse. So here, asking him to trot, lifting my hand as I would have reins in them, but I don't, clicking, and yeah, we are working on hay here, so yeah. But you see, there's can be, well, if you use your imagination, there's 100 ways more of doing everything I've showed you here, at least, And here we see I'm shaping actually reins here too, so back to reins again, but in a little bit of a different way, which I also use. I like to get a lot of things done at the same time. This horse is right-handed, And you see that he has an easier time stepping to the right than to the left yet. I mean, he's young here. This was last year. He's 5 or something, a bit over 5, but something like that. And I use this also as a bit of physio training, a bit of gymnastics to help him move his shoulder a little bit, which the mat are so obvious, great and helpful in doing this. So this is, of course, he knows the mat already. He knows them really well, otherwise I can't use them for teaching tool. And step to the left. So here, by the same behavior, with the same behavior here, 2 mats, I can get the cue of him moving towards me with my hand, can get the direct rein, that's what I call it, and I can also get the indirect rein when he steps away from me by using the same setup. That's I love working like that, and I also get some gymnastics, which I think is great. And the next, well, here I've taken it. I mean, this is very much in the beginning, and you see I'm not using the reins here. I'm using the mats and the release cue, that's my hand, as you saw that I did from the ground as well. And I mean, this is not the, it's also a little slope, but he solves this super nicely. It's so much snow this winter. So you see, I'm just asking him, can you step here? Can you step here? Which he does super. And here is also a bit later on. Yeah, now I wish I probably didn't catch it. Well, it's a soft halter. I'm not using pressure, but it has fallen down. The soft one tends to, when the reins are heavier than the halter. So should be, even if we don't work with pressure, it should be a little bit higher. But you see here, I have added a little tactile indirect rein here, and I sort of do a little bit of neck reining. And he's now waiting more for my cues instead of only working with the mat. And back, and when he doesn't answer, I just slide the rein out and show him my hand as I previously taught. So just to show him, hey, do you remember? It was this one, and he, of course, he start to works with the mat again when he wasn't given a cue. So, well, I had an idea that I would get off what is still. And of course, what we want from our cues is when we work with negative reinforcement, which is, I mean, the consequence for the horse is of course very different from our previous training, because the consequence in our traditional negative reinforcement training, well, release of pressure. That's the consequence when we shape with pressure. Here, I'm adding something my horse wants, in this case a treat. This makes for very, very strong cues if we take time to build them really as pure. I mean, none of it is perfect. You're gonna see me lose balance here, but as good as we can with from the reward-based setting, we're gonna get really strong cues that the horse love and get some favorite behaviors attached to our cues. So my cues are the green light for let's go, let's do this, that's the whole point of doing this, I think, and that's how I would prefer to have all my tactiles, to be really like a go signal instead of hey, move away signal. And we see here with this horse, I mean, it looks like a traditional setting, but how I built it is of course one of the difference. Yeah, we're coming here from, it's a bit I don't know if it's lagging a little bit, but I'm coming from let's see, from haunches in to the left. It's late, I don't know right and left anymore, and switching to shoulder in. And you see when I apply the leg in and shift the position a bit, he's doing like a woohoo, a huge answer. So I'm falling a little bit to the side there, And because this is, of course, I want to build sessions later on with cues that he likes a lot, so I can actually use the cues as reinforcers for the previous behavior, which was the haunches in. Okay, maybe it was a little bit much here in the end, but hope that was clear enough how I build, at least try to build my tactile cues, and why I think at least it makes sense for me in my system to use them.